Imagine a long bridge over a deep, deep chasm. It's a race. First to the other side wins all the world's diamonds and gold. You're incredibly smart, incredibly successful, and fortunate. And you're the first to successfully cross. You leave the competition in the dust. But you're not only competitive, you're incredibly ruthless. So you goad the gods into destroying and blowing up the bridge behind you, sending all of your competition who had been gaining ground on you recently, plunging down into the canyon to a fiery death as you look on with glee. King for all eternity! This is YouTube's strategy, and I will be explaining. What if someone were to try to take away from you what you value most in the world? Take away your family, one member at a time. Chip away at your wealth day by day. Or deprive you of the freedoms unearthed by our founders and for which previous generations sacrificed their lives to protect. Because the last item is exactly what big tech is doing today. And specifically, I'm targeting YouTube and Google, whose old ethos was do no evil. That was never high on Facebook and Twitter's list of priorities, so I'm less apt to call them hypocrites. These censorious companies are curtailing any further discussion of whether or not the 2020 elections were corrupt or fraudulent. You are no longer able to postulate a hypothesis as to what took place in Georgia, question irregularities, or even Matt Brainer's work that demonstrates that many people unknowingly cast ballots, aka likely possible fraud. Dare theorize or discuss it on YouTube and your video will be deleted, and soon enough, your channel gone as well. That means that any hardcore support channels for Donald Trump, gone, bye-bye. Newsmax, gonna be leaving the YouTube if they continue on their way, deplatformed. My channel, likely as well, because I have a hard time shutting up when somebody threatens our freedoms, hence why my channel is named Recharge Freedom. Please find me on BitChute or Brighteon. Recharge Freedom is the name of the channel, and the link is provided in the description. But some of you would say, hey, YouTube, they are a private enterprise. They are a private corporation. They should be able to host whoever they want. First of all, many businesses build themselves up on YouTube and are subjects to the whims of the tyrants at the top with ever-shifting and vague guidelines that they are able to delete after years of growth and content creation and subscriber bases numbering in the millions. For whatever reason they desire, the channel can be evaporated, eviscerated in a day, like they did with Stefan Molyneux and many, many other channels, often giving no justifications to channels that previously had no prior strikes. Second of all, back to the bridge metaphor that allowed YouTube to achieve its current dominance over user-generated video distribution was called, let's call it Bridge 230. What 230 protections did was protect platforms from being sued over user-generated content. So if somebody uploaded something that was copyrighted or stated something slanderous, YouTube could not be held liable. They could not be sued. They were granted protections from what would be business-ending lawsuits, preventing from what is today an absolutely incredibly marvelous technological platform from ever being created, from ever forming and robbing the United States of US internet dominance. The 230 protections were incredibly forward-thinking and bipartisan and really fantastic legislation. Hey, how about that? The feds got something right. But with the 230 protections, the deal was that the platforms were supposed to be neutral and they could not editorialize anything that was not directly in violation of US law. Now with the 2020 election, YouTube has issued hard editorial guidelines that befit their political ideology and orientation. is the same reason that parent company Google on their search engine has raised the value of all leftist sources so that they appear at the top of any politically oriented search result and downrank any conservative content. It is a silent way of infiltrating the mind and manipulating you into believing their paradigm. According to YouTube, the election is settled, which is positively false, considering that there is litigation from the state of Texas with 17 or 18 other states joining with them that is headed towards the Supreme Court and has the potential to overturn the results that Google states emphatically are irrevocable. YouTube and Google are absolutely lying about this. Donald Trump might, although the chances aren't with him, keep the office for the next 4 years. What I find deeply troubling is the fact that YouTube is asserting itself and positioning itself as the ministry of truth from George Orwell's 1984 dystopian novel that is predicting the future with remarkable accuracy. They are telling us what we can believe, what we can express on what is supposed to be a neutral and uneditorialized platform regarding not only the election, but everything, and that includes COVID. And in an important side note here, I am a Google shareholder with a substantial amount of my net worth in Google stock because I've had it for over 10 years and it's risen dramatically since I first purchased it. So by stating this, I am going against my own financial self-interest. I speak out because I value freedom and free speech far more highly than I do additional gold and diamonds in the bank vault. I value the ability of future generations to live with freedom of their own rather than under totalitarian rule, which is where we are headed, where the elite tell us what we can and cannot say, what we must and must not think.
But they'll never take our freedom!
We must stand up against Google, introducing the world to this Orwellian nightmare, which they are doing so, and slowly, so that we acquiesce, so that we're like that frog in water that is slowly being boiled rather than jumping away. This is my jumping away point. I've been at that for a while. I'm just trying to encourage all of you to see it as well, to feel the heat that is coming. It's a bit by bit suppression of information and suppression of dialogue that is taking place in our society. Just to demonstrate the double standard involved here, for years the mainstream media and left-leaning YouTubers have done nothing but drone on and on about Russian interference in the 2016 election, and that Donald Trump is not a legitimate president. Has this information been suppressed by social media in any way? Even though the Steele dossier and the whole narrative has been utterly and totally disproven. Could it be because it matches the social media political ideology and what they think is best in their financial self-interest? Check out this photo of this woman. I'm not sure I recognize her. Is it Naomi Campbell? Is it Tyra Banks? Is it a crossover between the two? Oh, wait, it's Stacey Abrams, whom the Washington Post wrote a fluff piece on, stating that this empirically ugly woman poses like a supermodel. I bring this up not to be mean, but to show you the framing and the lies that come from the left. The double standard existing, which you can find so easily. And they do so with brazen impunity. And this actually does affect the mind of many people. Stacey Abrams and her media sycophants have for the last 2 years claimed that she is in fact governor of Georgia and that the election there was fraudulent. Yet, has Facebook, has Twitter, has YouTube ever applied a warning label to this obviously false information, to this utter lie? Not one bit, not once. But with the 2020 election not yet even over, YouTube is already trying to suppress information that counters the narrative that they want the public to believe. It's pure propaganda. Anything that runs contrary to what they desire will be trashed into the memory hole, which in 1984 was utilized to remove all evidence of the past. And anything that ran contrary to the party line and the paradigm that was constantly shifting was thrown down into the memory hole, where it disappeared from civilization and the memories of people forever. Google is no longer the company of do no evil, but one that is actively installing an Orwellian nightmare dystopia upon our society and the rest of the world, along with China, who's further advanced in their attempt to do so. So I made the accusation at the very beginning of this video that Google and YouTube were doing this intentionally. You could ask yourself, couldn't these actions trigger Congress to revoke Section 230 as Donald Trump has demanded they do? It seems as though they are not only thumbing their nose at Congress, Google, but intentionally trying to trigger them and move them to action so that they are punished. Why would they do this? 230 protects Google from lawsuits. Why would they seemingly inflict self-harm upon themselves? I thought Googlers were supposed to be super smart, the smartest people on the face of the earth. And here's the crux. What most people aren't aware of is that, as I mentioned, Google has already crossed the bridge to the promised land. What is the promised land? They have developed artificial intelligence that can monitor anything uploaded to the platform in almost real time. It can scan hundreds of hours of content that is uploaded every single minute and determine whether or not something violates their guidelines. I know that from personal experience. I uploaded something including a segment from NBC critiquing it, and instantly it was labeled as a copyright violation. I uploaded something months ago, and before I even released it, it was deemed to be hate speech, even though it wasn't. But still, the AI was able to look at it and determine that it was risky and not allow it to be released on the platform. No human saw the video. It was deemed to be such by the AI that Google has developed. So if Congress, at behest of President Trump, were to destroy Section 230, YouTube could safely take care of itself and limit most litigation to negligible amounts, and would certainly profit from the elimination of its competitors, BitChute, Brighteon, Rumble, DailyMotion, which absolutely are not as technologically capable and nowhere close to catching up to Google in this category. So that's what I mean when I say that YouTube is intentionally asking Zeus, the federal government, to strike down Bridge 230 with a thunderbolt so that all competitors fall into the fiery abyss. And then Google shareholders, including myself, share the diamonds and gold mined on the other side for perpetuity. A monopoly for years to come. Those are the riches that I personally eschew, that I would rather exchange for the ability to state what it is I want, to avoid the encroachment of this 1984 Orwellian nightmare, so that you guys out there can express an opinion on YouTube or on social media that goes against what the elite say that you can. We have to stand up to Google and the dystopia that they are trying to release onto the world, much like China is. Maybe it's a little bit more slow, but it is coming. However slowly it appears to be spreading, once it's here, our liberties are gone, kaput, finished, down the memory hole and into the fire with the bodies of Google's deceased competitors along with them. Please find my channel, Recharge Freedom, on any other platform. The link is in the description. If I've explained this well, please share this video so that others become aware. Peace out, and I hope that I brought some cognizance of the situation to you. Remember, Google's doing this intentionally. It's game theoretically sound, money-wise, not for our freedoms. Peace out, everyone.